Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. On today's show, we have a lot of injury news for you guys, and we also have a very interesting story on what Stephen Ross thinks of the 2018 NFL season. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins wide receiver Jakeem Grant done for the season. This really sucks. Dolphins wideout Jakeem Grant will be placed on injured reserve after suffering an Achilles injury in Week 10, according to Marndell Silguero of the Miami Herald. Grant didn't suffer a ruptured Achilles, which would have required him to undergo surgery that could have knocked him out for 10 to 12 months. Instead, Grant underwent a separate, less invasive procedure, which should allow him to return for the 2019 NFL training camp. Grant, 26, took in a large role in Week 8 due to injuries on the Dolphins' receiver depth chart, managing 8 targets while Kenny Stills and Albert Wilson were sidelined. Stills is now back in the fold, but Wilson has been placed on injured reserve. Miami still has other options at the receiver position, however, including Danny Amendola, Devontae Parker, Leonte Crew, and the recently signed Bryce Butler. While Grant has been a key player on offense, his loss will strongly be felt on special teams, where Grant was Miami's #1 kick and punt returner. Grant had managed 16.3 yards per punt and 29.7 yards per return this season, both which are among the best figures in the National Football League. So this, obviously, like the story stated, this is going to hurt us in many different areas. First of all, we have 6 games to go. There's a 6-way or 5-way tie for the 6th seed in the AFC. There were certain teams that I thought would pull ahead at this point, but dude, it is so wide open right now. The Colts are back in it, who we play this upcoming Sunday. They've crawled all the way back into the race, and they actually look pretty good. They're probably one of the hotter teams, other than the Texans, in the AFC right now. That had a slow start, is what I mean. So this sucks, because obviously, he made so many big plays this year. You think about the trick play that he made. He made the one guy miss and he scored the touchdown. And the jet sweep that he scored a touchdown on. The punt return that he had against the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, we fumbled that game away. The kickoff return that he had against the Tennessee Titans. He is one of our best players on offense, and he's going to. I think people are underestimating how badly he's going to be missed. Not to mention, we've already lost Albert Wilson, who was a great player. I swear to God, if he didn't have 1,000 yards, that's because we spread the ball around a lot. But I would not have been surprised if he had a 1,000-yard season, if not a really high touchdown year for him. It just sucks, man. I mean, this season, if you look at the roster where it started and now where it is today, it's a completely different roster, and obviously it's significantly less talented than it was before. It's just really bad luck. Literally, we've had injuries at all of the positions, including the most important, which is the quarterback position. Not only, and we'll get into that later, but focusing on this story, I think people are going to underestimate how much this is going to hurt the team, because he does add a playmaking ability. I mean, dude, he can score from anywhere on the field. He can score if he catches a screen, he can score. If you hand the ball off to him, we've seen that this year, he can score. He's just a very, very big part of our success, and it sucks. One of the hallmarks of this team during the 3-0 start was our speed on offense, and we have significantly gotten slower, and our big playmaking ability has lessened a great deal. A perfect example of that is in the Packers game. Despite the terrible play by Brock Osweiler, there was a play where Danny Amendola was like, why? There was nobody within 10 yards of him, and he did his best. I think it was like a 35-yard gain, but if that was Albert Wilson or Jakeem Grant who got that ball, that would have been a touchdown. So it's that kind of stuff when people get that wide open. The run after the catch ability, which is a very big part of this offense, is going to be sorely missed as well. So there's just a lot of different areas that both players. I mean, it's honestly ridiculous, dude. If you think about all of the it's like, wow, man. We were so healthy going into the season, and it sucks. It sucks. So, moving on to the next story. This story comes from Dolphins Wire. Bobby McCain is still in concussion protocol. Although the Dolphins had last week off, one of their top cornerbacks has not recovered from his injury against the Packers on November 11th. Exactly a week after Bobby McCain was placed in concussion protocol, the veteran cornerback remains there, according to head coach Adam Gase. Obviously, he was hit by Equanimous, if I could say his name right, St. Brown. Well, it was a dirty hit. I mean, he was going out of bounds, and obviously the flag was thrown on it, but still. And again, and that's another crucial injury to this team. Although Bobby has, he started off the season pretty good on the outside, but since then it hasn't gone as well as we probably would have hoped. But he's only had, everybody has bad days, but he had some pretty bad days. But he's one of the best slot cornerbacks in the National Football League. He's a part of this young secondary that I hope continues to improve and probably will get better in the offseason. And we have some news on that as well, which is going to be interesting to see how involved we are in the off, because this free agency is going to be pretty big. Seriously, it's going to be pretty big. So we'll see how that goes. But we have let's see here if I can find this next news story here. But yeah, again, injuries all over the place. Our one hope, obviously, which we're going to get to after this, is Ryan Tannehill. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire as well. Adam Gase said Dolphins owner Stephen Ross understands the team's injuries. To say Dolphins have been hit with the injury bug would be an understatement. Currently, the Dolphins have 10 players on their injured reserve after Jakeem Grant's season-ending leg injury. On Monday, Dolphins head coach Adam Gase indicated that owner Stephen Ross has an understanding of what the team has gone through as it is due to its injuries. Adam Gase says, every time I see him after a game or talk to him during the week, he says, just keep grinding. Don't think too much about the injuries. I think he looks at that and who we've lost at some good players. That's something that is always unfortunate. He can see those big plays when they were occurring with Albert Wilson and what we get from Jakeem Grant and when we were hitting deep throws with Ryan Tannehill in there. He sees all of that stuff. So it's nice to see that the owner, and I know some of you probably don't like that, but it is comforting to hear that from him because I still believe in Adam Gase. I honestly, some of you guys are ridiculous. Some of the injuries that we've sustained. If Adam was doing this with everybody healthy, and again, it's in a perfect world, and I love how people are like, oh, well, there are people who are injured. Dude, yes, people deal with injuries, but not on the level that we are dealing with injuries. Like, there are teams that are lucky right now, and they're flying high. We talk about the Chiefs, the Rams, the Saints. They dealt with one injury, and that was that was probably the biggest injury that they dealt with was Des Bryant. Maybe Ted Ginn Jr., who those are none of their top 5 players, So it is what it is. Adam Gase has been dealing with paperweights and paper clips since all these injuries have been since all these players have been injured. So I just don't get the criticism of him. I know people, and to be fair to other people, they have been complaining about him for like the last 2 years now. So even though last year was, you can make a huge injuries, were a huge part of that season as well because Tannehill wasn't starting. We brought a journeyman quarterback in at the last second, to I guess help salvage the season. And again, I know I've seen in the comments, well, that was his decision. I understand that, but what else would he would have done? He thought that was the best decision in a terrible situation. Either way you look, there were people that played in the National Football League that said Jay Cutler was going to play so well that Tannehill wouldn't have got his job back. And dude, Armando Salguero, there were people out there that were like, listen, this is going to work. There were a lot of people at the time when he was signed that are in the comment section below, and I'm not, that thought he was going to work out. So it's not like he was the only one who thought that wasn't going to work out. And I know a lot of people question his decision making over the last 3 years, and I think it's been pretty dang good. If you look at some of the young players that we have on this roster, look at Albert Wilson, for God's sakes, dude. He does find great players, more so than any other head of, maybe other than Bill Parcells, who was here for a short time. Obviously this is relating to the the injuries that we're talking about, and I just think you guys should cut him a little bit more slack than you are. That's all I'm saying. And I mean, most people would disagree with that. I don't know. I don't know why so many Dolphins fans hate him so much. I really don't. I mean, we've had a lot worse here in Miami for a long time, and I know it sucks to lose, and I think we're all sick and tired of losing. But this is a very particular situation. This is not your run-of-the-mill, just bad, like all-around bad coaching and stuff of that nature. It's just not. If anything, I think he's elevated the roster. I mean, the 2016 roster was terrible. Nobody thought we were going to go make the playoffs that year. This year, you know, there's not like superstars all over the place. There's just a lot of people who fit the scheme. And when we were healthy, we were 3-0, and then we ran into a Patriots who has nobody. I don't think anybody's beat him this year, and I think the last time anybody beat him in New England was in Carolina. Did somebody beat New England? I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think so though. So yeah, it is what it is. It sucks. We have one more news story. Well, actually, we have two more news stories, and I'm saving the best one for last because at least we're gonna have to talk. At least we can talk about something that we all agree with. So. This next news story is about, obviously, number 17, quarterback Ryan Tannehill. It comes from the Finsider. The Miami Dolphins shut down quarterback Ryan Tannehill for the week before the team's bye, hoping that not throwing would allow the capsule injury in his throwing shoulder to heal enough that the team could get him back in Week 12. When they visited the Indianapolis Colts with both teams at 5-5 on the year and a part of a 5-way tie for the 6th and final playoff spot, Tannehill returning to the starting lineup in Indianapolis could be a huge boost for the Dolphins, who have seen quarterback Brock Osweiler regress over the past few weeks. As the team now comes out of the bye and gets ready for the Colts, how is Tannehill's shoulder and his rehab progress? Adam Gase said, quote, "We just increased his throwing. Really, it's kind of, did we cover this? Did we do on the move awkward throws? That's the next step. We just got to keep trying to spitball things off each other and make sure we're covering everything before we get him out to practice, where all of a sudden something comes up and he hasn't done it yet." He also said he's going to ask how Tannehill is feeling on Tuesday, and that will decide if he will start or not. So tomorrow we will get the news. I might do a little video on that. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. But I will say this, and I got this. In the fan Q&A segment last week, I got the question: do you think we can make the playoffs without Tannehill? And absolutely, we definitely cannot. Especially, dude. The way the roster is right now, we can't have a quarterback that's got one of the worst in the National Football League. And we were all duped. Let's just put it that way. Albert Wilson is the reason we won that Chicago Bears game. We didn't win a game since, and having a franchise quarterback in general just boosts the team. I mean, it just gives you confidence that you think you can win any game that you go into. If you have a truly special quarterback that's really a franchise guy, every game that you go into, you feel like, okay, we can win this game. And I'm not saying Tannehill's Aaron Rodgers out here, but try going into every game with Brock Osweiler. That's a completely different feeling. And obviously the story came out that the team has expressed frustration with him, saying that he's held the team back. And that's literally every team that Brock has ever been on that has happened. So it's going to be a boost to the locker room. It's going to be a boost to morale. It's going to be a boost to a lot of things if he can come back. A lot of people in the building, despite what other people think, really do believe in him and think he is a franchise quarterback. Even players on the team. Kenyon Drake, Danny Amendola. I'm not going to count Danny because he said things about Brock, but people that didn't say things about Brock believe in him as the franchise quarterback. So there are, and like I said, there are, we could go on and on. Larry Tunsil, a lot of people on that offensive side of the ball do believe in him, and that they don't believe in Brock. So it's gonna help the team in a lot of different ways when he comes back. This last and final news story is the funnest one we've probably had on this channel in a very long time. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. Jaguars to attempt to trade Jalen Ramsey. Jaguars cornerback Jalen Ramsey undoubtedly is one of the most talented corners in the National Football League, but his brash and outspoken nature is apparently wearing thin in Jacksonville. Adam Schefter of ESPN.com reports that the Jags will seek to trade Ramsey, who was named a first-team All-Pro last season and who could be controlled through 2020 this offseason. The team suspended Ramsey for a week during the preseason due to, quote, violating team rules and engaging in conduct unbecoming of the Jaguars as a football player. And that suspension appeared to stem from a series of tweets attacking media members for their criticism. Then teammate Dante Fowler did the same, and obviously he got traded. Ramsey is no stranger to controversial statements, however, as he has repeatedly made headlines for his local opinions about himself and opposing players. So basically, the Jaguars are sick and tired of it, and they want to trade him. This reminds me when Ndamukong Suh was leaving Detroit, and Stephen Ross obviously will open up his paycheck, his paycheck, whatever, you know what I'm trying to say, to get superstar talented players in the building. The question is, does Adam Gase feel like this guy fits the culture that he's trying to build in Miami? I don't know. I don't know how Adam would look at that situation with his personality and stuff, but from anybody's point of view, so everybody who's a Dolphins fan understands that our secondary, let's say he is in our, we would have the best, in my opinion, we would have the best secondary in the National Football League. If we had Jalen Ramsey. If X was on one side and Jalen was on the other, and Minka, dude, X, I don't know if he is anymore. I haven't checked the stats in a long time, but he was in top 5 or top 10, for sure top 10 in Pro Football Focus's passer ratings allowed, passer ratings against, or maybe it was success rate against, which is basically the same thing. Statistically, top 10 corner for sure. Look at his interceptions, look at his production. He's one of the best in the National Football League. Minka Fitzpatrick, no one has allowed a lower passer rating as a DB, including Patrick Peterson and all the big names. Minka Fitzpatrick is on top, at least before the bye week. Bobby McCain is one of the better slot corners statistically. Whatever metric you want to look at, Pro Football Focus, anything. He's one of the best slot corners in the National Football League. Rashad Jones from, I think a lot of people disagreed with me of my stance on Rashad. There's some people I do read the comment section. Some people said, I can't remember who said this, but people were bringing up Troy Polamalu and how he had free reign in the defense. I don't know if Rashad Jones is Troy Polamalu. And that Steelers team is completely different. Dude, we had Brock Osweiler on the team. Troy Polamalu wasn't, playing frisky out there with Brock Osweiler and some of the surroundings that Rashad has. It's a completely different thing. That's a completely different situation. Plus, Rashad was just giving up touchdowns left and right. So, it is what it is. I disagree with that point. I think those are completely two different situations. But, my point is somebody brought that point up as a counterpoint to me saying that he freelances too much. So whatever we want to do with Rashad after the season, I don't know. But let's say he stays in, which I think a lot of Dolphins fans would want. That's one of the best secondaries, if not the best, probably the best in the National Football League. And then when the draft comes around, all that we need to do on defense is draft up front. Maybe you go depth there, but we have Cornell Armstrong, who has played well when he's came in. Torrey McTyer has got some hands of balls that he just needs to pick off. He hasn't played terrible. Those are two pretty good depth. That's a good depth there. I mean, they can come in and give us good, solid minutes. So, let's say we made that trade. Now, depending on what they want as compensation, and I would assume that bid would get very large. That's where I kind of hesitate. If they want, I would imagine. Now, I've been surprised before, but Brandon Cooks, he went for a first-round pick. We're talking about Jalen Ramsey right now, who could possibly be a once-in-a-generational talent. And he's a very, very. He emotionally he gets over emotional at times, and I feel like that affects his play, because if he was locked in and not worried about everything else and around him, not worrying about what the score was, he would be the best cornerback in the National Football League. So, yeah, dude, if I knew that, if let's say we were the Panthers or the Patriots or these consistent franchises that are in the playoffs each and every single year, I would have zero issue of trading a first round pick. But depending on what happens for the rest of the season, it would be very weird for us to do that, because there are some very good pass rushers, some very good D linemen that maybe we could trade up to get and trade future compensation to get, that would equally help the team now. And it's not like the secondary would fall apart without Jalen. I'm just saying, if Jalen was on the team, we would have like the Legion of Boom. Like, we would have to come up with a nickname for this defense, because for the secondary at least, because the secondary would be on. It would be hot fire, ladies and gentlemen. We led the league in picks without him at a point. We're still pretty high up there. So if we had him, dude, oh my god. And we all know how important secondaries are. This is what I would do. This is what I would do if I was Adam Gase and if I was Stephen Ross. I would get Jalen Ramsey. Now, again, depending on the compensation, if it is a first-round pick, listen, I'll give up. I was about to say I'd give up future first-round picks, but again, and I said picks. It would have to be a pick. It wouldn't be. Dude, it's so hard. It's so hard to make that decision as a GM. But it is Jalen Ramsey, and we're going to talk about some quarterbacks that might fall to the second round. So, you know what? You could look at, hey, that was our first round pick for 2019. We know that he's a great player. We know that, excuse me, I didn't mean to burp. We know that he's a great player. We know that it's going to work out. There is a significant amount of defensive depth in this upcoming draft. Like, we don't have to pick one in the first round. We could find someone in the second or third round who could potentially be a star, or at least give us really good minutes. So I wouldn't be opposed to it, is what I'm saying. There are also some quarterbacks, I don't really like Greer. I don't think he's a first round talent. I definitely don't think he's worth trading up for. Drew Lock is, I was really high on Drew Lock last year because of his potential. He has disappointed me, like, at the highest degree. Trace McSorley I liked a lot last year. Granted, his offense was, he had Saquon Barkley last year, and that took a lot of pressure off of him. And this, talent-wise, and he had Mike Gesicki as well, who was a very big part of that offense. And that offense was, again, there was not a lot of talent there, but he was making a lot of poor decisions. I watched a lot of his games this year. I've been pretty disappointed with him. A lot of you told me to watch Daniel Jones, who I think is probably, if I had to take a flyer out on somebody this year, I think Daniel has a very good he could be pretty good. He had, obviously, a lot of rich history there with the coach at Duke, who obviously Peyton Manning and Eli Manning, who went through there, as well as some other people. He's been taught by some good people. I feel he's got some talent there. His stats aren't the greatest. I think he's only thrown 16 touchdowns. Will Greer is like 10 more than that. He's like 25, 26. So, but he's very athletic. He's won some pretty big games. He's beat the Hurricanes, beat our Hurricanes. So, even though he didn't play very well, but in terms of stats, the stats weren't very, all that great. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting how that would affect the draft if we did get Jalen. But back to my original point. I got so far off track right there. What I would do if I was Adam Gase, I would trade for Jalen Ramsey. I'd fire Matt Burke. I would hire Todd Bowles as defensive coordinator, and run that man blitz scheme. Would probably see, depending on if Todd wants to switch to a 3-4, that's a whole different animal. If he did want to do that, I wouldn't be like, whatever. If you look at 3-4 defenses and 4-3 defenses and run defense, who has the better run defense between the two schemes? It's 3-4, and it's not even close. So that might be something we need to look into. Raekwon McMillan could 1,000% be a good 3-4 middle linebacker. It's just Jerome Baker. Is he an outside linebacker 3-4 system? Probably not. There's just a lot of... If we could just keep the 4-3 scheme, that's where I kind of lose it a little bit, but I would love Todd Bowles to come. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. Everywhere he's been as a defensive coordinator, I mean, you look at the Cardinals and how much success he's had there. The Jets, say what you will about the Jets, he's built a very talented defense. That offense is god-awful. Anytime that defense got turnovers, they won games, they blew people out. I think he's a tremendous defensive coordinator, and I would love to have him. So that's what I would probably do. And him and Adam have a great relationship, so I would not be surprised if that came to fruition. I would love if that happened, dude. If we got Jalen Ramsey, cut Matt Burke, and Matt Burke, please turn it around. That's all I have to say. I mean, this entire team is inconsistent, but the defense has talent on it. So, yeah. Alrighty. That's a very interesting situation. And like I said before, Stephen Ross has made leaps for superstar players in the past, and maybe this would be one of those situations where we do get Chef Ramsey, and it would be interesting, to say the least. And again, like I said, I think we would for sure have a top 5 secondary, for sure. I mean, this secondary would be the bomb, dude, the bomb, if we got Chef Ramsey. And I hope from like Chris Greer and Adam Gase, if you and I hope we have the Sean McVay, Snead mentality of, listen, dude, this group can be super special if we just added this one play. Like, they can be a super special, and this defense could be super special. There's some things we have to figure out on the D-line, but the draft is so deep there, if we had to give up a first-round pick for it, it wouldn't hurt us that much to go back and draft some depth at the defensive line position. There are definitely run stuffers that we could get late, deep into the draft that could help us out. And if we have to, again, we could get a good pass rusher in the second round. So this draft is very, very deep defensively. So, amen. It would be one of the more special positional groups that we've had in a very long time in Miami. And I think a lot of people, it would be something special for if we got Jalen. So let's get into the fan Q&A. Remember, guys, this is where you guys ask questions if you guys are interested. If you've made it 27 minutes, this is gonna be a very short episode. Because we didn't have to do the box score, but this could be a very short episode. If you've listened this far, it would be a huge help if you subscribed and got involved with the channel. If you're a Dolphins fan, it would be a huge, huge help. This first question comes from Ron. He says, "Can Miami beat the Colts Sunday? If so, what do they have to do according to Skaggs?" Can Miami beat the Colts this Sunday? Dude, Ron, you've got to tell me why you ask questions like this. Well, Ron, what do we have to do to beat the Colts? The thing about the Colts, dude, is their offensive line is so much better than it was last year. It is so much better than it was last year. Not only to be honest, the best thing that they do is run block, but they're pretty good at pass protection as well. I think the thing that they've improved the most is up front on that offensive line. They're giving Luck a lot of time. The running game is so much better with Marlon Mack and Hines. So much better. They run a lot of what Philly did last year. They use their tight ends a lot in the play-action game. What their philosophy is the same as Philly's in 2017. Set up the run, and that opens everything else up. They do a lot of RPOs. So you have to be very sound on defense. The first thing that we have to do is shut the run down. It's the first thing that we have to do. Not the greatest matchup in the world, especially since how we've been playing lately, and that's something that they do very well. Quentin Nelson has really done a very good job for them up front since they started playing this year. It's made a world of a difference. The thing that if we want to beat the Colts, we have to do a pretty dang good job in the run. And again, not that they can't win if we do this, but the load has got to be on Andrew Luck's shoulders. Get them in third and long situations where we can maybe expose some of their tackles. Their tackles aren't the greatest in the world, but they've been running the ball so effectively. I mean, a lot of their big plays have come off play action. So we have to do a way better job at defending the run against this team. This team, and the way they run the ball is very creative. They don't just run your traditional power play. They do a lot of tosses. misdirection toss plays. A lot of their big plays have come out of runs on the outside. So the first things first, we have to stop the run against this team. Offensively, we have to run the ball. The kid Darius Leonard, has had a very good rookie season. He's been pretty good for them. Malik Hooker on the back end has played very well as well. I'm forgetting the kid from Florida that they just drafted, cornerback, but he's played well as well for them. They're a lot younger on defense. They're a lot faster. But I still think their defense isn't quite there yet. I still think you can see where this team's headed, and they're headed in the right direction, especially how Frank Reich has done a great job with that team offensively. He's done a very good job. So I still think the defense could be exposed. It's not the best defense. It's by far not the best defense that we've played up front. I mean, Jabal Sheard is probably their best pass rusher. So I think we can move some people up front. I think pass protection shouldn't be too much of a problem. They do like to blitz. So that's something that we're going to have to deal with. But I would say offensively, we have to get into second and third and shorts. And that goes for every game, any team that plays. But we have to win the battle of first and second down and put our offense in favorable situations on the offensive side. But on defense, we have to be stout up front or we're not going to win this game. Because if Andrew Luck has a running game and it's productive, it's not just okay, then it's going to be an issue. And especially since Eric Ebron, like I said, they love to use their tight ends, just like the Philly did last year. They use them in the same by the way, I can't remember their second tight end. He's having a really good rookie season as well. Like, their tight ends are good. So the way they use them, obviously they like to run the ball, which sets up the play action pass, which sets up their tight ends. So we have to do a very good job stopping the run and eliminate some of those things and make them one-dimensional. Because that it all is set up by the running game. This next question comes from Kyle. He says, should the Dolphins go out in free agency in the offseason and get a big money young guard? I would have to look at the offensive guard market and see who's out there. Josh Sitton we should definitely, he's always had injury issues though. I would keep Josh around because he's one of the best guards in the league when he plays, and Kilgore, when he played, Daniel didn't play all that well when he played, so maybe that's something that we need to look into. Jesse Davis is not a terrible guard, guys. He's a very good pass protector. A lot of people have made the argument that he's a better tackle than he is a guard, and maybe we need to experiment with Juwan playing guard and Jesse playing right tackle, because Juwan he's not the physical run blocker that we need at that position. That's something that we desperately need, is run blocking. So it's really just switching out a tomato for another tomato. So we need to. I would say a guard is a priority, Kyle. I don't have the list in front of me. Depending on who's out there, I would definitely strongly consider it. But yeah, you're right. To answer your question, without looking at the list, you're right. We do need a guard. Ron says, do you spend $20+ million on Teddy Bridgewater? This question comes from Ron. He says, do you spend $20+ million on Teddy Bridgewater, or trade for Lamar Jackson, or keep Ryan Tannehill and move up as far as needed for a rookie? If you choose the last option, who is the quarterback you target to trade up for? Greer, Haskins, Herbert, or Locke? I do not like Haskins at all. I do not think he's going to be... Dude, the people that think Haskins is beyond me. I don't think Haskins is going to be a good quarterback. Herbert is the best out of all of them. Drew Lock has disappointed me. Daniel Jones from Duke, I think he's got some potential. I do not like or love this quarterback class. But I think what you're going to find in terms of who's going to be the more talented quarterbacks are probably going to be in the second round. We talk about the Locks, the Joneses. Who's the other kid, dude? Who's I just thinking of? I can't remember. But I don't think I guess Haskins would be probably a later round pick. I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. If you choose the rookie, I would probably see Daniel Jones. I could be literally forgetting the kid's name right now. And the quarterback for Duke, I'm pretty sure his name is Daniel Jones. There's so many Daniel Joneses out there in sports. So if I had to say it, if I had to play the game, I would probably say I would draft Daniel late first or second round if I had to trade back up into the first. I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to be traded. That's an interesting thought, but Tannehill. But if I had to pick at it, keep Tannehill and move up, I would probably keep Tannehill and draft Daniel Jones in the second and third round. This next question comes from Ron. He says, if Frank Gore wants to play another year in 2019, do you sign him or move on to Drake/Balash? This is a great question. I want to see Kenyon play better at the running back position these last 6 games because he needs to play. He needs to be more decisive. He needs to know situational football. Not every play can be a home run hitting play. Sometimes we need 5 or 6 yards. Sometimes we need 3 to 2 yards. So that's something that he needs to learn. Kalen, we haven't seen enough of him, but when he has played, he's shown flashes. So you would be a little bit hesitant. I would probably sign Frank another year just to be sure, and maybe sprinkle all 3 of them in, and like Adam has attempted to do, like put Kalen has gotten his snaps and stuff of that nature. So I probably would re-sign Frank. Depending on what happens in the last 6 games, as of right now, I would definitely re-sign Frank. Because Frank has played very well. But Kalen and Kenyon are more, I just need to see more. Corporate Gamer, and Kenyon is a very good back out of the back. He's one of the best out of the backfield. But he just needs to do a better job in the running game. This question comes from Corporate Gamer. And again, I keep thinking of these things. He probably would have played better if he had a better quarterback. If Tannehill was in for some of those games, he probably would have better stats. Corporate Gamer says, what do you think of Boston College defensive end Zach Allen? I have not watched a ton of college football this year. There are a few players that I have watched extensively, mainly the big name guys. I don't know enough about the guy to say to give you a good critique of him. This next question comes from Ron. He says, in the offseason, do you blow up the defensive end position and re-sign Wake or just start all over? That's a great question. In my scenario where I trade for Chef Ramsey, if that is a possibility, I would definitely keep most of them. But I do see what you're saying, and I would 1,000% draft a lot of... This draft is deep in D-linemen, and that's convenient for my move if in my world where I trade for Ramsey. So that's what I would do. Corporate Gamer says, do you think the Saints are the best team this year? The Saints are they're the best team right now. But they beat the second best team, or what I thought was the best team in the Rams. Their defense is a lot better than a lot of people give them credit for. Eli Apple has actually played pretty well for them. PJ Williams isn't a terrible corner. Marshawn Lattimore is obviously a very good player. Marcus Davenport has been very good for them. Cameron Jordan is a great player. Sheldon Rankins is a very underrated defensive lineman who's very good at stopping the run. So their defense is very underrated, and their offense is ridiculous, to say the least. And Drew Brees is on a mission right now, so yeah. This next question comes from Ron. He says, do you trade for Jalen Ramsey? If so, what are you willing to give up? And this is a great question, Ron, because it's like, dude, we do need a franchise pass rusher, and there's a lot of them in this draft, in the first round especially. There's a lot of what I would say guaranteed superstar caliber players. When we talk about Nick Bosa, Oliver, and I'm forgetting the kid from Alabama. I mixed the Houston kid and the Alabama kid up a lot. But all 3 of those guys are very good, and if I were to trade for Chef, then I would basically be giving up on those guys. But at the same time, will any of those guys even follow us? Probably not. So I would be willing to give up a first round pick for him. This next question comes from Ron. He says, do you think Torrey McTyer or Tankers or Armstrong can develop into the left cornerback spot, or does the team need to draft, trade, or sign the guy for the left cornerback spot? Jalen Ramsey is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. You look at some of the teams that missed out on Odell Beckham. Carolina Panthers are a perfect example, in my opinion. If they would have got Odell Beckham, they would have been a Super Bowl. Like, they would be one of probably the best team in the National Football League right now if you had somebody like that on the outside. That's the only thing that team's missing, is a playmaker on the outside who can go deep for Cam. To make the secondary, to make a move like that to get Jalen Ramsey would make the secondary super special, and not a lot of people can say that. And you know when you have a special secondary, that's a hard team to beat. And I would invest in that defensive line of the draft, and the defense would be so much better if we did that. If we made that move, if we gave up a first round pick for Jalen, invested, hopefully hit on our draft picks in the second to third round. Even if we got let's say if we got Daniel Jones in the second round, right? There are still players available that could be situational players that can help us stop the run. So that's probably the formula I would follow. Corporate Gamer, this next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, would you be interested in drafting Trace McSorley in the 5th or 6th round? If we haven't drafted a quarterback at that point, yes. The thing, I have not been impressed by Trace this year, but when he has talent around him, he's played very well. He's obviously a playmaking type of, he can make plays with his feet. I just don't know if he'll ever be a great pocket passer. Probably not, to be honest with you. But we've seen that, we've seen quarterbacks get away with that, especially in today's game. This next question comes from J Rose. He says, what do you think about Luke Falk, who we picked up? His tape seems legit. He's actually disappointed me. His preseason was terrible. His arm talent is well below average. I think the quarterbacks that are in this like Daniel Jones, I would be more excited about having on the team than Luke Falk. This next question comes from Corporate Gamer. He says, what do you think of a 3-round mock draft for the Dolphins? What do you think of this 3-round mock draft for the Dolphins? First round, Will Greer, second round defensive end, third round center. I wouldn't be mad at it necessarily. I just don't believe in Greer all that much. If I was to trade up for anybody, it would be one of those D linemen, for sure. So I would say defensive end in the first round. If you do the Jalen Ramsey scenario, that's what I would do in the first round. Would you trade up for Nick Bosa? Yeah, I would. I think he's going to be a very good player. This last question comes from Flaming Finn. Let's see here if I can't get it. Thing is messing up. Hope you guys are enjoying as I get this question in, because he just asked this question, and I know I uploaded this at short notice, but I was like, oh yeah, I have to do the fan Q. I have to upload the fan Q&A. But I hope you guys are enjoying the show and continue to support it. This last question comes from Flaming Finn. He says, after seeing the Monday night game, do you think we need a quarterback because all of the teams we will potentially have to face if we make it far enough have aggressive offensive, good play callers, and top 10 quarterbacks? Ben, Brady, Mahomes. We lost to the Bengals, so Dalton too. Dalton sucks. Don't even know. Dalton is not a top 10 quarterback. Was the question, do you think we need a quarterback? Let's see here. After seeing Monday night's game, do you think we need a quarterback because all of the teams? Here's what I would say about Monday's night game. That Monday night's game that made it very clear to me. Number one, Dolphins fans need to wake up. I really do believe that. If you look at the Chiefs, look at the Rams, look at the, like you said, Big Ben, Juju Smith-Schuster, Antonio Brown. Those are two ridiculously talented receivers. His offensive line, David DeCastro, Alejandro Villanueva, Chris Gilbert, Marquise Pouncey. That offensive line is one of the best in the National Football League. James Conner, statistically, one of the best running backs in the National Football League. The Los Angeles Rams, Todd Gurley, MVP candidate. Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Andrew Whitworth, Havenstein, Saffold. They have a very good offensive line. Sean McVay calling plays. Look at the Chiefs. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce. Those are ridiculously talented surroundings for those quarterbacks. Not to mention Andy Reid's calling plays for that team. We do not have that kind of talent on this offense. Many teams in the National Football League do not have that kind of talent on that offense. If Tannehill had Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, Kareem Hunt, I think he would be looked at very differently. If he had what the Los Angeles Rams have, if they had what the Pittsburgh Steelers had, I think it has more to do with that than it does the quarterback position, if you feel what I'm trying to throw down right now. So that is it, guys. I am SHAREfactory. I hope to see you guys next week. Please support the channel in any way you possibly can. We need more Minkah Fitzpatrick questions. So next time I upload the fan Q&A, please ask. Minkah Fitzpatrick is a GOAT, guys. He's really good. He's a great player. Cannot wait to see. I love him to death, and that's why he's the backdrop for this video. So I'm SHAREfactory, and I will see you guys. Hope to see you guys. Can't wait to see you guys in the next one.